Freedom of speech has long been a hallmark of the West, but today it seems that freedom ends when it comes to criticizing Islam. Dale Hurd has that story from the Netherlands.
A 15-year-old Danish boy faces prison time for distributing leaflets warning that Denmark could someday become a Muslim nation, and that he thinks that's a bad thing. A Danish prosecutor calls that hate speech. But across the water in Sweden, it wasn't hate speech when a leading national newspaper a few weeks ago printed an article claiming that Israeli soldiers harvest and sell organs from dead Palestinians. Some say that amounts to the anti-Semitic Jewish blood libel. The Jews commit human sacrifice on non-Jews. But the Swedish government defended the newspapers, saying, no, that's free speech. Welcome to Europe, where the difference between free speech and hate speech is dictated by political correctness and fear of Islam. Lars Hedegaard of Denmark is head of the International Free Press Society.
Free speech is coming under increasing pressure by the day.
And it doesn't matter if your criticism is factual. For instance, Islam teaches that when Muhammad was 52, he consummated his marriage to a 9-year-old girl. But when Austrian politician Suzanne Winter said that in today's world Muhammad would be considered a child molester, she was convicted on hate speech. Dutch Parliament member Geert Wilders is awaiting trial on the charge of inciting hatred and discrimination. But in Wilders' short film about Islamic violence, Fitna, he simply reprinted violent verses from the Quran itself and added video of radical sermons and photos of Islamic terrorism.
He's being accused of hate speech for repeating in a film what radical imams and religious leaders have been saying about their own motives and what their own beliefs.
And the censorship of criticism of Islam is here in America as well. This is a new book about the 2005 Danish Mohammed cartoon controversy, the cartoons that shook the world. Except that the book contains no pictures of the Mohammed cartoons. The American publisher Yale University Press decided it would be too offensive to Muslims to actually show the cartoons. But there's another force behind the push to censor critics of Islam, and that's the 56-nation organization of the Islamic Conference. Only the United Nations is larger.
In 2008, the organization of the Islamic Conference laid out a 10-year plan for the suppression of free speech and for introduction of laws that would prevent criticism of religions. Read Islam.
The OIC calls itself the collective voice of the worldwide Muslim Ummah, or nation. It has its own Declaration of Human Rights, the Cairo Declaration. Except that if you read the document, you find that all rights and freedoms stipulated in this declaration are subject to the Islamic Sharia. That's Islamic Sharia law. Marshall Sana is an Islamic expert at Barnabas Fund.
But it actually wields an enormous amount of influence, and that's been evident in the last few years with perhaps its #1 agenda item, which is combating Islamophobia, as it calls it, or the defamation of religion.
The OIC calls Islamophobia the worst form of terrorism and a threat to world peace.
Well, that has been a project under construction by the OIC to develop the concept of Islamophobia as being any suggestion of criticism upon Muhammad, upon the Quran, the Hadith, the fundamentals of Islam. But now it's being coupled with the idea of racism.
The organization of the Islamic Conference is now a major force inside the United Nations. For 4 straight years, the UN has adopted a non-binding OIC resolution banning the defamation of religion. Observers say the ultimate goal of the OIC is to get a UN law criminalizing criticism or blasphemy of religion, even though Wilders says that in the Muslim world, respect for religion only goes in one direction.
Look at how Christians today are treated in countries where the Islam is dominant. Look how, try to buy a Bible in Saudi Arabia, try to visit a church in Iran, try to do anything a Christian in an Islamic country. There is no room for it. They are intolerant.
Opponents of Wilders have compared his attacks on Islam to yelling fire in a crowded theater and say it's not protected speech.
You can't cry fire if the theater is in fire, is burning. And unfortunately, our societies are burning. The Islamization is unfortunately very strong.
Supporters of Wilders say the right to free speech itself is on trial, and that if Wilders loses, it will be the ultimate religious, political, and cultural capitulation by the Dutch government to Islam.
But the Wilders case is just a small part of a growing worldwide phenomenon, the censorship of any speech that criticizes Islam.
You'd better care, because this is a road circus that's coming your way.
Don't think it won't happen to you. Don't think it won't happen to the United States.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, in Western Europe.
Well, I hope we wake up. I mean, you get into these code words. I remember when I first heard the phrase hate speech, I understood where that was going. That all speech is free and open and protected by the First Amendment, except for hate speech. And that would be something that would be used to limit our First Amendment rights. And here you see it.